I'm an example right here in front of you of integrated masculine and feminine after 70 years of being a master of meditation, a monk, a husband, successful, emotional intelligence. All those things have come together for me to have the wisdom to balance and integrate both my masculine and feminine.
Okay, guys, today's guest is most known for being the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, which was rated one of the top 10 books of last quarter century by USA Today. It was the #1 best-selling relationship book in the 90s and has been translated into more than 45 different languages in over 100 countries and still continues to be a bestseller. He has since gone on to write over 20 books, now including the most recent book, Beyond Mars and Venus, which talks about new relationship skills for a complex modern world. He has appeared time and time again on Oprah, as well as the Dr. Oz Show, Today, CBS This Morning, Good Morning America, and so many more. Safe to say, this man is the go-to expert in the world when it comes to creating and living a loving and powerful relationship. So please, help me welcome the man who went from being a celebrant monk to now being a worldwide recognized for his work and teachings in the game of relationships and is truly a relationship expert. His mission is to help both men and women create powerful bonds that last a lifetime by helping people increase their self-love and self-esteem, which then creates more trust in themselves and others. My friend, Mr. John Gray.
Oh, what a nice introduction. Thank you so much.
Well, there's so many things to put in here. And when I was preparing for this interview, usually I like to wing like every single interview. That's usually how I do. I'm like every like Larry King. That's what Larry King did. He's like, all I want to know is the person's name. Then we sit down, I get to know them and pull amazing things. And then when I was putting yours together, I was like obviously I've followed your work for a long time. Like we were chatting before we started, like, you know, my mentor, like lots of like different people who are in similar circles. And so obviously I've heard about your work for a long time. I've dived into a lot of it. And I've dived into a lot of work with Tony Robbins as well, which I know you've taught Tony a lot in this space. So I'm super excited to dive into this. And I've got so many questions that the listeners are going to love. So I'm super pumped. So just really grateful you can be here, John. So thank you for jumping on.
Happy to be here. Warning, I tend to take long answers, so I'll try to keep them short if you got lots of questions. You know, people, they say, like there's some simple answer to relationships. It's calling rewiring everything you learned in the past and recognize that your partner also has to rewire everything they know in the past. And you have to totally ignore what you think. If you think you know men or you think you know women and you don't have a successful relationship, you need to think differently. So it takes a while to answer some questions, but I'll be more precise.
No, I love it. Well, hey, let's dive straight into it then. I would love to first like unpack a little bit of this. So I'll first give you a little bit of backstory. Like the first time I ever sat in a relationship seminar was when I did something with Tony Robbins, and it was an entire day. And I was thinking, I was like, okay, this is gonna be pretty fun because it's with Tony, you know, but it's also like, this is probably gonna be the most boring day this week. And I was like,
yeah, people
like,
can't imagine how much there is to know about relationships.
Yeah. And it turned
out. And the interesting thing is, all success is built on relationships. Skill and competence is good, marketing knowledge, but it's all based on building relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fascinating. Like we did a deep dive and I was on the edge of my seat all day long. So I was just like, I did not know this was so fascinating, so interesting to really discover, you know, myself more than other people. So please dive a little bit into this. Why is relationships the most important thing in business and in life? And what are the major differences between men and women? Like what makes this so fascinating?
Well, about 1,000 differences that people don't see acknowledged. Let's start with something so obvious. When people try to deny our differences, how do you create life? It's called a man and a woman come together. Women have a whole set of hormones in order to make a baby, and men don't have those. Men have a whole set of hormones to provide for a woman so she can make a baby, to make also the hormone necessary to stimulate her body to make a hormone, to make this, get the sperm in there, and every motivation to get her to want you to put the sperm in there. We have hormones that regulate us. Somebody told me today, it was quite wonderful, a quote from Carl Jung, one of the brilliant psychologists of the past. And it was, our objective is to make the subconscious conscious. Otherwise, the subconscious will determine what we call fate. Totally amazing. Such a clear, concise thing. Your subconscious is all your programming. That's what I started out talking about. Everything you think you know is wrong if you're in a relationship and it's not working. It's all the other person also is wrong, but you're all wrong. And that's why it's important that we begin to realize some of the mistakes we make. So in the context, at the beginning stage of what mistakes we make is we assume our partner should react the way we do if they love us. It's just not true. Women do particularly. So men will assume that if she loves me, she'll be happy now that we're married. Forget it. And women assume that now that we're married, things are going to get better automatically. Wrong. They tend to go downhill. And in the past, everybody knew that. That was called the romantic stage, the honeymoon period, where you don't have to have skills at all. And for many people, they have a great time. Oh, lots of romance and passion and excitement. Then stops, just stops. And in your generation, it stops even sooner because you have this thing called gender fluidity.
What is this? What is that?
Oh, well, in America, it's a big deal. And of course, in America now, twice as many people don't even get married as 20 years ago. They can't even stay in relationships. Why? Because they can't keep the spark. You want to find somebody that excites you, turns you on, feel good about them. Well, that diminishes. And then you get this kind of numb feeling, a little bit like good friends if you have some decent communication skills. But the romance, the passion, the excitement, gone. Now, historically, that would be the case. Now that you have gender fluidity, which means women are more like men and men are more like women. And what I mean by when men are more like women is that they're addicted. See, the female side of us is dependent. It's the hormones of dependency are the female hormones. The hormones of independence are masculine. So when you're doing your thing, feeling independent, you're producing male hormones. When you're depending on someone for approval, for acceptance, for support, for nurturing, any of that stuff, when you're feeling that, you're producing female hormones. The problem today is that males have too many female hormones and females have too many male hormones to balance. What we need is the more enlightened person, and your generation is more enlightened and more confused. You have no culture that supports you being, as a man, more in touch with your emotions, and for women, more in touch with their independent desires. So how do you find the attraction? Well, the attraction goes away very quickly if you can't be more feminine, if you're a woman, and more masculine if you're a man. So basically, you're masculine doing this show. You're solving problems, you're making money, you're being independent, all that. That's good. But you got to feel more powerful when you're with her. And she's got to feel more vulnerable when she's with you. Vulnerability is our female side. Now, when I say that, I know the climate, it's less in Australia. It's always been a little less, but it's coming, which is women becoming men and say, I don't relate to that. Although a lot of Australian women are usually welcome these ideas. But basically, as women become independent and tougher and successful, what do they need a man for? Yeah. Now, see, and why do we need a man? Well, because if you don't need a man, his testosterone goes down. When a man feels needed and successful, his testosterone goes up. Now, why is that important? Because biologically, if you've got a penis, your testosterone needs to be at least 10 times higher than a woman's. Otherwise, you're unhappy, you're depressed, you're stressed, you have a heart attack, you're not motivated, you can't keep it up with the same girl, you got to go on and do porn, got to go drink alcohol too much, addictions come in. So this is reality. This is the world we're living in, totally crazy. And it's only going to get crazier because just as guys are masturbating off to porn all the time, losing their soul, basically, now we're going to have the meta universe, which is going to be completely fueled by, you know what the meta universe is? That's what you put on the goggles. Yeah. And you're living in a fantasy world. We already live too much in a fantasy world. And fantasy does not promote intimacy. You can't be intimate with reality. What happens is your brain changes. People don't realize that your brain literally changes in the same way your brain changes if you were to take cocaine. You see what it does? It overstimulates dopamine. Anything that feels like, wow, this is amazing, that's dopamine. And now when you're depending on that to be sexually turned on, a woman cannot turn you on like that. And a man cannot turn a woman on like that. You see, this receptor sites in the brain become desensitized. So you depend on high stimulation. And if you don't get that high stimulation, you feel bored and you feel flat and you lose the passion. And that's what's happening today. Just having this phone and looking at TikTok or Facebook or porn, high stimulation. You know, most people go without your phone for a week. They go, oh, I don't know if I can do that. You know, I got to look at this, look at this. That's called addiction. And that makes, for men, that makes female hormones. And for women, that makes male hormones. It's like we're the opposite. You see, women need 10 times more estrogen than men. Estrogen is emotions and feelings and feeling I need and I'm dependent on someone. That's why most relationship challenges, most of them, unless couples are way out of balance, is women complaining, he doesn't listen, he's not there for me, he ignores me, he's not supportive, I feel he's not romantic. It's all about me, 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 me. I'm not getting me, 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 me. And she'll say, but look, I'm not. I say, yeah, but why are you complaining about it? Why don't you do something else to be happy? Why are you so needy? Okay, so this is when women are too far on their male side. To get back to their female side, ironically, one of the things that will produce estrogen, and she needs estrogen, otherwise she's stressed out. If you have too low estrogen, you'll be overwhelmed and dissatisfied. For men, you're underwhelmed. If you have low testosterone, nothing excites you. You need high stimulation. They go the other way. So women are overwhelmed. And of course, they can't have orgasms when they're overwhelmed. They can't enjoy sex when they're overwhelmed. They're in their head. They just pretend if they do have sex, they pretend to like it. It's just like, it's a disaster today. Yeah. And certainly in the beginning stages of a relationship, there's a newness, does stimulate dopamine. But then that goes away. The newness goes away as familiarity sets in. So then you need skills in order to build intimacy, because if you have intimacy, then truly you can maintain that passion. But the intimacy has to be such that it increases femininity in women, increases masculinity in men, and then you will continue to feel attracted to each other. Okay. But right now, oh my gosh, there's no culture to support the easy access you have to going to your female side. And there's no culture to support the easy access women have to go to their male side. You see, in the past, you had to bust your ass to support a woman. You couldn't, life was not easy for men, and it never has been. We do the difficult things. We do the dangerous things. We do the hard things. We risk our life. We sacrifice our life. And that's how we get laid. That's how we get someone to love us. You see, that's how you get a woman to love you and marry you and give you love for the rest of your lifetime, by being willing to do those things so she can do the things she would love to do. Yeah. See, women today can't even imagine what it was like to be a woman 50 years ago, where your greatest fulfillment was to have a husband support you and having children. See, I could love my children. And now it's like so many women don't even want to have children. These are the biological imperatives of this body. And I'm not saying everybody has to have children. You can have a pet, you can have a charity you work for, but you've got to do things without expecting return. Otherwise, you're making testosterone. And it's nothing wrong. Get me right. I'm not saying everybody has to be a certain way. But if you're unhappy, you're unfulfilled, you're not excited, you're not motivated in relationship, your hormones are out of balance. Okay. And generally speaking, women are too far on their male side and not nourishing their female side. And men are too far on their female side, not nourishing their male side. And so communication now, once you understand men and women, everything about communication is the reverse of what you think it should be. For example, women think, oh, I'll be a good listener and ask you a lot of questions on a date. And you'll just talk about yourself. You won't bond with her and she'll feel neglected afterwards. Well, he didn't ask me any questions. Well, that's because you kept asking him questions. He's just trying to be a good doggy and answer your questions, but you're expecting him to ask you questions. No, he doesn't. You keep asking him questions about himself. It's like you're interviewing him. What am I supposed to do? Let you talk? No, He's going to talk if you ask questions. So what men have to know is when they're on a date or when they're with a woman or she's upset, anything, you need to ask more questions. Whether you're in business, whether you're in a personal relationship, ask more questions, say less. Simple concept. But that would be sexist if you didn't understand that we are different. But every aspect of relationship today has to be changed because women are on their male side. Men are on their female more than history. I mean, your generation at 20 years old, your testosterone levels are 20% lower than natural. It's a crisis. You get emotional, you'll get depressed, you lose motivation, you don't suck it up, you're not strong. You see, this is what masculinity is about. You say, I'm going to do something, you do it. And I'm not saying just you, I'm talking about your generation. You know, everybody living with their parents, you know, used to just kick you out and get out there and do your own thing. I mean, I was homeless. I had to like pick it up, go for it.
Yeah.
And even as a little boy, I remember watching my dad shave. And I was just a little kid looking way up to my dad. I was panicked. How will I do that? That was pressure. I needed a role model to teach me. If you don't have a role model of masculinity, then you don't know how to do it. Then you become more insecure. And the easiest thing to do for a guy when you're insecure is go to your female side. You see, that's what insecurity is. It's feminine. It's your female side. And women today, they're tougher than men, way tougher than men. They're way on their male side. But then how do you grow in intimacy? Intimacy is seeing into her, go into her emotions, her feelings, her thoughts, her desires, her dreams, her needs. That's going into her, see that part of her. And intimacy for men is, you don't need to see that part of me. I don't have a vagina. You need to see the outside part of me. It pops out, right? Look at that. Look at that erection and go, oh my God, he's got an erection. Amazing. And that's just a metaphor. It's look what he does for me. Look what he can do. Look at his character. Look at the way he treats other people. Get turned on by that and let him know. That's what men need, is to feel valued and appreciated for what we can do. And women over there competing us, saying, oh, well, look at me, what I can do. Great, that's good. I can look at that all day long. It's not going to create intimacy. Intimacy is seeing into her. We got it all backwards now. You got most women will come in and counseling and say, I don't feel appreciated and valued. I said, that's not going to make you happy. It'll never be enough. Appreciation just increases testosterone. What you need, and you don't say it, is you need respect. You need someone to make you feel safe, make you feel you can open up, make you feel you can ask for help. And you're the one who first starts saying, I don't need any help. I can prove I can do it myself. Marriages are falling apart. The whole institution that holds this world together is falling apart, crashing down with the loss of sexual awareness of differences between men and women. It's politically incorrect to do what I do. And the least politically incorrect was Australia. I remember back in the day when people used to, before I became super famous, nobody agreed with me. I had to prove to people. And then finally they did. And now they've taken it away. You know, in America, I used to be on, introduced every show. I've been on everything. Barbara Walters, even 3-hour show, a Broadway show. I had the biggest theater, most successful, all the biggest theaters I've done. And then they canceled me. Cancel culture in America 25 years ago. I still go online. I still got a website. I said my books are still selling, but they will not let me on any of the national shows because I'm considered sexist. You read the book, Men Are From Mars. Oh, that's sexist book. Men and women are different. They're not different. That's what they're teaching in universities. Any educated woman, already you're up against a huge hill to marry a woman who's educated. Imagine she makes more money, then what does she need a man for? I'm not saying women can't make money, saying women can't be educated, except that education is lying to you that men and women are the same. Education is saying that this is all just made up. The society determined that men and women should be like this. Now, what society does, culture is wisdom. We're not stupid in the past. How did we get to this amazing world we've created? We got there by the culture that existed before they destroyed it, and they're trying to destroy it. A culture that supports men and being men, supports women and being women. Now, I agree that culture is out of date, but you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. When the culture should now support men being on their female side, helping to be family, take care of your children more. I raised my children. It was one of the greatest fulfillments of my life, while I was also providing for my family.
Yeah.
And while I was being loved and appreciated by my wife, what I brought, I had to strengthen the masculinity, but then I also was able to bring in my femininity without losing my masculinity.
That's what I was just going to say. It's like that total integration, right? It's like, yes, women are having more and more opportunities to do more of the things that what men had opportunities to, 50 years ago. And I totally agree that, like, in this day and age, the fact, like, it's not so much the thing here in Australia, but I know in America, things like the pay gap and things like this. And I'm totally love that it's really cool that things
There is no pay gap in America. Let's just cure. That's all feminist bullshit. Here's the truth. Yeah. The truth is, if you're an educated woman and you're under 35 years old and you don't have children, you'll get paid 30% more than a man. That's the statistics from our government. Now, if you're not educated woman, you'll get the lowest paying jobs, and men just won't do those jobs because you hear you're pregnant, you're not married. Over 50% of mothers who have children aren't married. They live off the government. This is terrible. Government should give incentives for people to be married. The incentive is dump the guy, blame him for everything, and then have the government take care of you and the baby that you made irresponsibly. This is the world we're living in now. It's insane. And now what they're doing in America, they'll do it there too, is they're giving their big laws passed. We're going to give free childcare for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. The government's going to send your babies to a camp where they indoctrinate them. Instead of, how about if you need money, give the money to the mother and let her choose to put her children in the camp, or enough money so she can raise her children. When in history did we not raise our children? This is insanity. Give them incentives, more money to go out and work more. And here's the economics of this thing. It used to be, Australia was like the ideal place. A man could have a job. You could have a house and an acre of gardens. Your wife could raise those children. And then when she had more time, she could have a part-time job. And then she could have a career once the kids are grown. So nice, so wonderful. She didn't have to worry about earning money while she's raising children. Anytime you're earning money, you're raising testosterone. And if you don't have a balance in your life, and right now nobody does, generally speaking, unless they know new skills. So we need a new culture of understanding, why do women need men? Well, you don't need us for the money. You don't need us for the survival and security. What do you need us for? And now they're making it even crazy. You don't even need a man at all. You need the government. This is insanity. Whatever happened to freedom and individuality and your own family, your own, you need to feel that you're in charge of your life. We're losing all of that. People need to wake up. This is insanity and crazy. Do not depend on the government. And also women, start depending on men. But what do you need a man for right now? That's a key factor. If you can make money and that's good and you're educated, you can do that. What do you need a man for? You need him to help you get back to your female side. You can't do it alone. If you try alone, you're producing male hormones. You need a man to learn how to listen, to be affectionate, to be understanding, to be compassionate, to be providing, to support you, not material to the great, whatever. But the thing that's going to juice up your estrogen is I'm alone, I'm unhappy, I'm burnt out. I need somebody to talk to. I need somebody who understands what I'm going through. I need a therapist. And now therapist is big business if you get a good therapist. Unfortunately, they don't love you. They do it for money.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the real juice as a man who truly loves you, but you've got to train him if you're a woman, because right now we don't have a culture that trains men how to be good listeners, how to be understanding, how to be affectionate, how to prioritize certain needs in her over himself. And she has to learn how to prioritize certain needs in him over her own need. For example, you're a guy, you need to come home and a woman goes, hey, he's back, he's here. Appreciation. You don't need a woman competing for appreciation. You need a woman who's focusing on her primary need is, I need respect, R-E-S-P-E-C-T. And so many people teach gender. They say, women, you have to give men respect. Well, we all deserve respect, but what does men need most? A woman who doesn't complain, a woman who needs them, a woman who can appreciate them. And you can't just do it. You see, you can't just feel hunger unless you go without food. You have to feel the hunger, and then food tastes so good. Well, women are suppressing their need for intimacy, and they don't even know how to get it fulfilled. And they blame him for not knowing. How's he supposed to know? It's your need. You have to communicate it to him, and you have to communicate it in a way that he can hear.
So I'd love to dive into this. love to dive into this. So what I'm hearing is, so look, obviously with things with technology, the dopamine, the pumping, it's breaking this polarity, like you're saying. So men are becoming women and women are becoming men, which I totally agree. And generally
Oh, that's
speaking, that
such a
is,
good point. You said a point I didn't even say, but I do agree with and teach, is in the beginning you have dopamine. That's going to go away because familiarity sets in, and that's good too. That's safety, comfort, ease. You want to come home, you don't be in arguments and fights and whatever. You don't have to plan a date every day and do something exciting. You would be take off your shoes and sit down on the couch, watch a football game. Things should be comfortable. But as soon as comfort sets in, dopamine goes down. But what will keep dopamine up without the familiarity is polarity. Then that's where you picked up. That's the most important thing. It's always polarity. You know, when she takes her clothes off, that's different from what my body looks like. And kabang, you got polarity. If you're able to be emotionally have polarity. You see, people are so superficial today. They're only turned on by porn. You see, this is new and different woman. Your wife, after 10 years, 5 years, and now after 6 months for most of your generation, you see your partner that you care about, you love, but you're not turned on to her. Why aren't you turned on to her? Because your love is superficial. It's just physical. And at a certain point, you transcend the physical. I mean, as simple as that. I've seen that body 50 times. Why should I be turned on to it? That body I haven't seen. So boom, dopamine goes up.
Yeah. Can we talk about this? Like how can, because I totally agree with all this, right? So how can the people that are sitting in this relationship where it's like, yeah, I have been with my partner 6 months, 12 months, or 3 years, and it's just not like it used to be, or they just don't turn me on as much. How can
I'm
they
70
start
years
to build...
old. It's better than it used to be. I fuck like crazy all the time. It's amazing.
Great. So how can people start to build this like massive attraction, this sexual attraction, and keep the...
And by the way, when I use the F word, maybe that's offensive to some. I apologize. Because
no.
But
not
for
my
me,
audience.
when I say that, I'm also talking about making love. You see, I'm not even turned on to anyone else. I can't even think about anybody else. I'm so bonded with my partner because I make love. I don't just have sex. So I teach this whole thing about sex. You have to have sex the right way and the right amount. But we'll continue with your question. I just wanted to apologize.
Yeah, no, I love it. So first of all, you can't offend anyone in this audience because they get the most from me. So, but what I'd love to dive in, because this is like, you've made a solid point, and I think I think a lot of people who probably listen to this podcast are quite aware, either consciously or unconsciously, that this is happening, and this is totally a thing. So I'm glad you've touched onto that. So what are some different things that people can do to bring this polarity back? Because that is exactly what it is, right? We've got the positive and the negative energy of feminine and masculine, that is attraction. And so how can people, I'm assuming that is how we lived an incredible lasting relationship, is to keep this polarity high. So what are some things people can do if they're sort of going in the opposite directions, where you've got the woman being the hustler, getting shit done, cleaning up after the man, doing all that, and then the man's being a pussy and being like, yes, love. In Australia, we have a whole happy wife, happy life thing. That's the saying. It's like, whatever you want, love. And it makes the man, they get further and further away. So people that are in sort of this, just general speaking.
By the way, happy life, happy wife is a very good concept, but you have to know when you're happy life, yes, dear, yes, dear, yes, dear, what you're doing is producing estrogen. Right. You're not making testosterone, just to know. So it used to be that guys used to be responsible for the financials of a woman. She couldn't make money. And also you were smarter. Usually you went to college or you were older. Okay, those two factors are big hurdles we have to overcome now. Historically, you never marry a woman unless she's 7 years younger than you.
Wow.
Yeah, 7 years younger. That's the standard. And older man gives him power so that she has something she can look up to and appreciate. He knows things she doesn't know. He can do things she can't do. So therefore, she has a sense of, I'm not older than him. I don't know more than him, even though she can know certain things without a doubt. I'm not saying that has to be the case. I'm saying that's why relationships survived, is that men had something men could do something that women couldn't do for themselves.
And allows her to be in her feminine energy more. And then while he's in his masculine,
if I can do something that you can't do. So one is the other thing, which was men were out there working in the fields, doing busting work and not complaining, not whining, being proud, had a certain dignity in real work. You know, I use my body, I use my muscles, I use my time, I use my energy. I do what I say. I'm honorable to my customers. I feel great within myself. I don't look to her to feel great. I look to her to feel greater. I feel good about myself. That's self-esteem through action and doing and serving others, not my wife. but then I bring home the goods. I bring home the goods for her. And she's so grateful because she can't go and do that, because in those days she was pregnant, uneducated, and couldn't do that. And the rules didn't allow her to do that. So that setup allowed her to feel tremendous love for men. And when women feel tremendous love for men, then men can feel tremendous love for her. We can't love without a woman loving us. We think we know what love is. We don't even know. So I can't tell you, you don't know what love is. Even men, people write books on relationships saying love is not a feeling. That's men writing a book. That's because they never felt love. They think they know goodness. They know behavior. They do good things. They read the Bible. They say, do this, this. But love, there's loving behaviors, but love is a feeling. And love is what we grow, making love. That's when you have lasting sex, is when you're actually making love, not just doing loving things. You should do loving things. And the irony here is, if a man does loving things for his wife or his children, then when they love back, his heart opens more. See, we depend on, we depended on our mother's love to have self-esteem. And if your mother wasn't happy, you just don't have it. You need to have a mother's love. You need to have a feminine love. You need someone who appreciates what you do for them. When they appreciate what you do for them, then you open your heart. See, women don't depend on men to open their heart. This is why if you get to married and you get a divorce, you'll probably be married in 3 years. Done. You'll go out and start a new relationship. Women don't understand this about men. Women take 9 years on average. There could be exceptions, more masculine women, but basically 9 years. And many don't even get married again. If it was a long-term marriage, their heart is broken. They feel like, I can't trust another man. I can't trust myself. They take a long time. Why? Because they're not as hungry for a man's love as man is for a woman's love. And the way a man's hungry for a woman's love, it shows up as a desire for sex. Because when you have sex with a woman, that's when you're most vulnerable. And the more masculine you are, the more dependent you are on sex in order to feel love, to feel it and feel passionate about it. In the beginning, you get to feel love due to dopamine. Basically, I love my cocaine. I could be alone and I eat ice cream. I love ice cream. Oh my God. I can go to a mistress and have her touch my body. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I'm not loving her. I'm just loving it. Learning to love a person. It's easy with your children, generally speak, for men, these little people. You see, and why is it so easy to love children? They're so little. You can pick them up, put them down. You can control them. We as men, to boost testosterone, need to feel we make a difference. We need to experience making a difference. And for women to love a man, she needs to experience him doing something for her. As simple as last night, my partner said, would you go to the kitchen and get, would you get me some warm water? I got out of bed, walked half a football field away, which is where my kitchen is. It's a big house. Yeah. Happily came back and served her a glass of warm water, turned her on, had sex. The little things turn women on, not that have that big stuff. And again, but she felt safe to be able to ask for that. I could have said, why didn't you get it yourself? That'd be the practical brother and sister thing to do. Yeah, you should do it. No, she asked for something. Oh, a little thing. You see, one of the differences between men and women is when you're when you're feeling estrogen, if your estrogen levels are close to normal, almost anything he does for you is romantic. If they're close to normal. If they're a little bit below normal, or if they're all the way down, nothing he does is romantic. A lot of women don't even know what real romance is. They're in fantasy land romance, where he does something that she needs, that she didn't know she needed, and she didn't have to ask for it. Kabang! Woo, that feels great. It'd be like me giving a seminar and saying something, and then people interrupt and start clapping, unrequested. That's wonderful, no doubt about it. You can't do that all the time. And actually it becomes kind of boring after a while. I used to do that. I used to get everybody to clap after everything I said. I said, what do you think? And then I train them to clap. And after a while, I realized they're just doing it because I asked for it. But isn't it more fun when somebody does something you didn't have to ask for it? That's really great. That's true. But actually, there's a higher level of happiness and fulfillment in a real relationship, which is a woman feeling safe to ask for help, to ask for support. Because when you ask, you're opening up to your female side. The female side doesn't thrive unless you feel, I need something from you, and I know I can get it. You have to feel trust, I can get it, and need at the same time. So not, I need more and I'm not getting it. That's just complaining. Now, complaining will give you some relief if you're a woman, because complaining produces estrogen, but not that much, okay? It produces estrogen, but it doesn't get you anything. You just feel better doing it. You get addicted to doing it. And why does complaining feel good? Let's look at the biology again. 1,000,000 years of us living in little communities together, developing into human beings, developing digestive systems in this brain. You know, we are so much a copy of everything that came before. You can't just think that doesn't exist. So you're living in a little village. It's dangerous. The world was very dangerous. Men were protectors. So if you're a woman, you're going to die if you don't have a man, unless you have really high status in the community. So one or the other, you need someone. All right. So now you're pregnant and you've got babies and you got a man, but you're out wandering outside getting water at the well and you see a tiger. Now, what do? You run back and tell people, right? Imagine everybody's asleep and you don't want to wake, you can't wake them up. You're panicked. You're going to panic. You need to talk about the problem. There's danger here. I need to talk about it to get the help I need. I can't do it myself. So when there's problems, women need to talk. That produces higher levels of estrogen. If nobody's listening, it doesn't make estrogen that much. So if you complain to a man, he's not going to listen to that. Nobody listens to complaining. It's just like that. What happened to the loving woman? You know, it's just like, now you're punching him in the stomach, you know, and she doesn't even realize it. She's just doing what her instincts are, which is the danger, danger, complaint. Now, imagine you're a man, you hear the complaint. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to go out, you're going to get some guys to support you probably, but if there aren't any guys, that's okay. You're going to go out and hunt that tiger. Now, when you're hunting the tiger, do you make any noises? No, you don't talk at all. Stop talking, men. Don't talk so much. You know, what is the old thing about the most romantic man is he's tall. It's always better to be taller. It's an extra advantage, but you don't have to be. I'm just saying what the advantages are. You're taller than her. She looks up to you. Okay, so that you can carry boxes that she can't carry. All right. So tall, dark, mysterious. You see, the whole thing is mysterious. You don't know what he's thinking and feeling, and that's romantic. Then now today, well, I need to know how you feel. Tell me what's going on. What is it you're feeling inside? You answer that back by saying, well, help me understand your feelings and tell me more. You see, you need to penetrate into her. You don't have a vagina. Her job is not to penetrate into you. But what happens with human nature, when you're in denial of what's inside of you, you think the other person needs it. So because you need to talk, you think for us to have a conversation, he needs to talk first. No, she needs to talk first, but she doesn't want to share what's inside because it's negative. So you have to know how to share negative feelings without blaming your partner. That's a whole new lot. Who teaches you that? Either you're a traditional woman, you just don't complain. And if there's nothing to complain about, you're in a happy marriage. If you don't complain and there are things to complain about, you're going to become more and more unhappy. So I grew up in a family of happy parents. You know why? Because men are highly functional when they're well paid. When men are highly functional, which means they're compassionate, they feel good, they're positive. When they feel, look what I earned, look what I did, and they feel good about that, they're the best husbands. Then the wife, who depends on that money, who depends on that strong arm to get the crops and do whatever needs to be done, and also not to worry. You know, what women need is a father. They grow up and there's a problem. You need a father. It's okay. Everything's going to be all right. I'm here. No big deal. Oh, you're mad at me? You say to your wife, it's like, okay, let's try to understand this. We'll get through this together. Patience, not reactivity, not anger, not raising your voice in anger. I'm raising my voice now because it's fun. It's exciting. It's positive. But when you're angry, it shuts women down. Just shuts them down. And what's interesting is what gets activated is this childlike brain that thinks that's always the danger, even though men can change, but she'll hold on to, yes, but 20 years ago, he said he wanted me to die. And I said, yeah, you also said you wanted him out, you know? so yeah, nothing happens in a vacuum. Again, when women don't understand the impact of their words, then they don't realize how responsible they are for the problems in the relationship. Just as men don't have a clue of what the problems are in the relationship unless he acts out some horrible way. like he has some terrible addiction or he's violent, then of course we all saw it. But what you don't see in women is what they think and feel, which has a bigger punch than actually saying it out loud. And now saying it out loud doesn't work either, but it does create an addiction. So most women who aren't happy are addicted to negative thinking, because negative thinking produces dopamine, and it also increases estrogen in women to a certain extent. It just creates more problems. And therefore you're going to get, I mean, if you're complaining to your husband, he can't get turned on to you. Give me a break. So he needs to be valued and appreciated. So how do you ask for more and value and appreciate? With a lot of sandwiching techniques where you say, oh, honey, I've noticed you've been, say the problem in my marriage was I was forget to turn out the light all the time. So she's, oh, you forgot to turn out the light. How many times I have to tell you? You're always doing it. You expect me to just follow you around, turn on lights? When you live in a castle, you got to light a lot of lights. What about the electric? So she just complained. So she figured it out. One day she said, John, I've noticed you've been turning the lights out, and that really makes me happy. I just want to remind you of that because occasionally you still forget. Boom, then disappears from the room. Doesn't look at me like, are you going to change more? Do you promise to do good? Do you feel bad? Are you sorry you didn't do it right? None of that. Don't expect him to be some woman that go, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do better. He's not going to do that. Don't expect him to be a girl. He'll do, if your life's in danger, he'll say he'll risk his life. Absolutely. No question. But he won't turn out the light because that's not a big deal. His mind doesn't think little things are big things, but your mind does. Then you make the misinterpretation when he doesn't do that little thing you asked him to do over and over and over. After 10 times in your mind, you go crazy and you go, well, if he won't turn out the light, then he doesn't love me. Are you kidding? This is the guy who works for you. He doesn't love you. Give me a break. Oh, but he didn't do that, so he doesn't love me. Oh, you didn't call this, so you don't love me. This is insanity. This is where we've gotten because we're no longer needing each other. We're no longer living in reality anymore. We're in fantasy land. Come back to reality. Yeah. And the problem is reality doesn't feel that good when we're all doing social media, overstimulation, pornography for men. It's just like craziness. We've gone out of balance. We need to come back to reality. And then the reality has changed. That's the whole thing. The reality is women are now free. And it's not just our culture has changed. Our culture, which allows women and supports women in going to their male side to various degrees, and supports men in doing more feminine things, staying home, being with the children, having a vacation, not working so hard. These are all good things, okay? But what happens is when men go to their female side, it feels so good. You lose your power to come back to your male side. And when women go to the male side, it feels so powerful. It feels so good. Hard to come back to your feminine side that doesn't feel so powerful because it's not loved and nourished. The female side is enormously powerful. Think about two powers. One is, look what I can do. I can make money. I can help people. I can solve problems. I can build my body up. I'm strong. I'm at 70. I have a great sex life. I got great grandfather and my grandchildren. My children love me. I'm a successful man, right? That's all masculinity. Now, for a woman, so that's power. That's what I want to say. That's power. But what is feminine power? Feminine power is I don't have to do all that. People do things for me. So you have a choice. If you look at the extreme, would you like to be the solution to every problem? Or would you like to have people do whatever you want them to do? That's so feminine power. Feminine power is I don't have to do everything. Every unhappy woman that comes to me will say, I feel so overwhelmed. There's too much to do. I have to do this. I have to do this. Yeah, you took it on, but they can't get back to their power, which says, I have all these people waiting on me and doing things for me. Now, of course, what we want is a blend of those two things, which is look what I can do and look what I get other people to do for me, which is, again, another aspect of what I can get other people to do for you is money comes in. Money will get people to do stuff for me. Attract money. That's your female side. Anybody who attracts money is connecting with their female side. Anybody who's competent doesn't always make money. There's so many competent people that just don't make enough money because they're just on their male side. When you have both sides, a magic happens. You're what's called lucky. You're successful. It's a big mystery. People, what's the big mystery of how did you do this, John? How do you do this? I said, I balanced my male and female side. And I bring in God's help. I'm very, very spiritual. I was a monk for 9 years. You see, part of why we have this big change that's happened today, where women are not, the culture has supported women to go to their male side and support men to go to their female side. But the culture is a reflection of what's the change of the human being, because the soul is coming more into incarnation. The world is going to become such a more amazing place. But for it to become an amazing place, everything that stops it from being an amazing place, we have to become conscious of. So right now in Australia, you have to be conscious of the jailers. You know, this is, you all started out as prisoners and you had jailers. Well, those jailers are still there and they're working on you now. This is insanity what's going on there. Same thing in Austria, you know, the birthright of the Nazis, you know, they're the jailers and now they're all being jailed. What we have to become aware of this darkness that looms inside of us. And by becoming aware of it, we can then say no to it. We can then let it go. We can realize how stupid it is, how fruitless it is, that we are better than that. But so that awareness to come in that doesn't want to jail anybody, but wants to give people freedom and supports that freedom with wisdom and compassion. So that soul is coming in. As the soul comes in, that's incarnating God's light into us. What happens is you have access, if you're a woman, to your male side, and you're a man, you have access to your female side, because your soul is not masculine or feminine, it's both. Mm-hmm. So the soul is massively gender fluid. It's because it's both, it's integrated masculine and feminine. I'm an example right here in front of you of integrated masculine and feminine after 70 years of being a master of meditation, a monk, a husband, successful, emotional intelligence. All those things have come together for me to have the wisdom to balance and integrate both my masculine and feminine. Is it going to take you 70 years? No, because you can read my book. You can hear me talk. There are teachers that are living examples of this. There were no living examples of this before. How many people do you know that's super successful, that's also super spiritual and married and with children and healthy and vibrant and a great sex life? I don't know anybody. So how did I get there? My soul, I know my soul, and it integrates in, and to integrate in, whatever is unlike God comes out of you. And that's what's happening in the culture today. And that's what happens in ourselves when you have real intimacy. When you're a successful man providing safety for a woman, then suddenly deeper levels of anger will come up. And you have to be the man who's like an oak tree grounded with roots, and the wind blows and you say, help me understand that better. Well, tell me more. I'm curious. Really? Well, let's go deeper in that. What else are you feeling? And you have to have emotional intelligence to know that anybody who's frustrated or angry, they're believing a lie. But you can't tell them that lie. Any or negativity is evil. What is it in the Star Wars show? Don't give in to the anger. It only empowers the negativity, whatever, it was something like that. You react back. It just blows women out of control. What women need is the safety to open up. Now, that's what I do as a therapist. Women say things they could never say to their husbands. And I said, that's okay. You shouldn't say that to your husband because it's critical of him. That's not who you truly are. So what you have to do is have a way of healing the darkness as it comes up, to recognize that all negativity is irrational. There's no point in expressing it, particularly to the intimate partner you have. They love you. What are you throwing negativity on them? If you want to throw mud, throw it on your government. Okay, throw it on your politicians, throw mud there, but not on your children and your husband and your wife. That's insanity. So when you feel that stuff coming up, you have to know what to do with it. So that's called high level of emotional intelligence. I write about all these things in my book, Beyond Mars and Venus. You know, how do you create a new culture that supports women being both masculine and feminine, supports men to have both? That integrates the spirit into us. But what happens in that process, as light comes in, you become more aware of the darkness. And the darkness in women is complaining. That's their job. Their job is to point out the darkness. Our job is to be the light that shines and helps them understand themselves without having to feel shame, without having to feel defensive, without having to feel they're a bad person, because they are a good person. They need safety. That's what we do in therapy. We allow people to express what they feel. But unfortunately, and we do have Mars Venus coaches who understand what I'm about to say, very few people have ever come to me, because I don't know what every therapist does. I read their books, so much foolishness is done, but I assume there's some good ones out there. A therapist will only listen to your story for a little while, and then they'll help you get in touch with emotions that have nothing to do with right now, but better to do with your past. You see, when you're like behaving like an animal, it's because you're behaving like a child. Children like little demons unless they have love around them. Okay, there's no such thing as a appropriate child. You know, that's their whole thing, is they're animals. But when you have love around them and guidance and role models, then they can develop. But you take children without supervision and they're just evil. They're jealous and they're demanding and they're tantrum and they're selfish and they won't do things. They don't help others. And why don't you get that? I want that. That's our nature in the monkey brain. We're like animals. And what we need is someone to be the prefrontal cortex for that child. And then they're able to have that support and transform the primitive programming into higher level programming. And this is what the therapy has to do, is when you're upset now, you have to find a time in your past where you had the same kind of emotional pain, and then treat that part of you like a little child that needs loving support. Like, I love you. Help me understand what you're going through. I understand you're angry about this. Tell me more, and let that child speak. And then don't stop there, because anytime you're in emotional pain, any negativity is pain. Just get that. That's your soul telling you your thinking is off and your decisions are off. If you're upset, you can't believe anything you feel when everything's just because I feel it, it's true. Nonsense. We've got this big feeling society. Well, that's what I feel. That's a bunch of baloney. It's, if you think that that's reality, it's you misinterpreting reality. So anytime you're upset, you're misinterpreting reality. If you believe in God, if you don't believe in God, I just good riddance. You know, I bless you. If you don't have a sense that there's goodness that supremes in this world, however you want to hold it, to me, it's an intelligence of the universe. Yeah. It's there. It serves me at every step. And if my thinking's in the wrong direction, it does what makes people change. You get a slap. Pain. It's the only time people change is when there's pain. When we're stuck in our homes for so long, we're going to stop it. Okay. Something's got to break, because pain motivates people to change. But when you blame other people for your pain, then they're just going to have pain back at you. So what you have to do is, when you have negativity, before you make any choices, decisions, clever things to do, new skills for a relationship, how to change myself, how to get what I want, all that's possible when you're in your purity of connection to your creativity, your love inside. And so when you're upset, rather than look to the outer world to change, before you feel better, look at those feelings, realize they come from a long time ago. They were repressed. They're coming up now to be healed. So you treat them like, okay, he's a little crazy right now, but that's all right. He's a child. And I'll listen to him and I'll help him process those emotions. So I write all about how to process emotions. Underneath anger is always disappointment and sadness. Anger can't stay more than a few minutes if you don't also feel disappointed, hurt, or sad. And that will disappear just by feeling it. If it doesn't, just disappear and turn into positivity. If you don't go deeper and go, what am I afraid of? And then if that still doesn't just release right away and you feel at ease and comfortable and safe, then you go down to the bottom of depth, which is deep self-awareness, which is, what am I feeling guilty for? And that's a hard one sometimes for some people. For other people, the anger is easier. Some people, the guilt is harder to get out of. Some people, it's hard to get out of feeling sorry for yourself or feeling so disappointed, or some people live in fear. Whenever you're stuck in any of those emotions, it's because you're not looking at the other emotions. All four are always there when you're in pain. And what those emotions are doing is suppressing feelings of gratitude, of happiness, of confidence, of excitement, and of pride. All that's just natural inside of us. All you have to do is get rid of the layer that's hiding inside. It's always, if you're not feeling good about yourself, good about the world, excited or motivated, or at least at peace with the world, positive emotion is always because you push down the positive emotion by gripping the negative emotion. You've got to feel the grip and then let it go. And that's all technology. You don't learn that as a kid growing up. You don't learn that 100 years ago, 50 years ago. Nobody understood any of that stuff. We didn't need to, because everything got repressed, but it's all coming up now. You see, and it comes up, particularly the more you have, the more stuff comes up. Look at people, they win the lottery, within a few years, they've lost it all. Okay. Yeah. They have divorces and chaos goes on, because once you feel, oh, finally I can be me, you're like a little demon running around. Look at all these. This is what's happening in Australia so clearly. People in power. Oh, we have so much power now. They're like demons complete demons out there. Same thing in America. Once you have power, it's like this guy Fauci, you can't fire him, evidently. Congress is saying you should be fired. The Senate is saying somehow he gets to be the highest paid official, unelected official, as if his word is God, when there's huge amount of experts that disagree with him. He's an idiot. But he has $5 billion to pay off every research fund. So all these research centers have to go, yes, I'll do what you say, Fauci, I'll do what you say. But the independent doctors are saying he's crazy, maniacal. They're killing people right now. And right now in Australia, for example, there's 20% more deaths in the hospital from a mysterious disease. Nobody knows what it is. Yeah. Why did suddenly deaths go up? Isn't it curious that some injection has been put into everybody?
Yeah.
I know so many people, my friends, who are dying after doing that injection. This is personal for me. 3 days later, gone. Another friend of mine got shingles. He got his booster. 3 days, two days later, shingles all over his body. Healthy guy like me, but foolish, believing the lies. Anyway,
Yeah.
I know you can't show too much of this stuff.
No, I'm actually gonna have a doctor on the show, and we're gonna do. It's the first time I've ever, with this whole thing, like we bring up conversations around, but I'm actually bringing a doctor in it who was on Joe Rogan's show as well, and I'm gonna let him just go.
Let him do it. Let him do it.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan has been so good. We all worship Joe Rogan.
Yeah, because it's just like I do sit here.
But you know what? I want everybody to know he's a little gruff, but they can also go to InfoWars. InfoWars. Info. INFOWARS. It's the most extreme conspiracy person on the planet, but he sits there with all of the reports and reads them to you. This is what this person said. Like the Supreme Court is right now ruling on mandates, and right there on TV, hearing her voice, this is a Supreme Court woman, and she's saying, well, we all know that the only solution is that everybody take the vaccine, as if there's no such thing as personal, where you've got the sickness and now you're not can't get sick again.
Yeah.
Okay. So it had no awareness that we all know that that's the answer. And we have to create these mandates because there are 100,000, she might even said 200, 100,000 children right now in hospitals. They all need to be vaccinated. Well, there are not 100,000 children in hospitals. There are 250, and most of them have conditions they would have gone anyway. And this was Dr. Fauci even said that. Yeah. This is the Supreme Court ignorance. I can't believe the stupidity. And it's not just stupidity. That's where you have to know there's a devil in this world. If you believe in a God, then you believe in a devil. They both exist. It's the positive and the negative. And the negativity is ignorance. When you can't have conversation, when you're being edited, when you're being censored, which has been going on in America, so much censorship, then you're not doing science. And all you're doing is you're doing religion. And the new religion in America is Fauci, Saint Fauci. And you can't speak your mind. You will be taken off.
Yeah. So one of the things that we, really sort of encourage on the show is like, I like to provide everyone with as much information as possible, and they make their own decision about everything, right? And so that's why, like, all of this, right? And people might hear things and agree or disagree with whatever, but it's like, it's all on you. And one thing, so I know I'm mindful of your time, but
you got two questions. I warned you. I'm a big talker. As soon as I feel I'm talking to Australia, I just want to give you some of this. You hear about Australia lockdowns, and we're just like, oh yeah. F.
So one thing I'm interested to know though, right? Because you did mention to me, so you've been married, so you had an incredible marriage, and then she passed a few years ago. But before that, you did have a marriage, right? And then eventually you found. So what's interesting is, right, so we've got the expert of relations right here, who's had a divorce, right? And some people might be like, well, that doesn't make sense. So what I'm curious to know
it makes great sense.
Well, I'm curious to know is how do you know? Because there's lots of people out there, right? So when people come to my events, like many people break up their partner after my events because I provide more information, and they're like, actually, you're not the right one for me. We're just really good friends. So how do people know the difference between just a really good friendship or their soulmate?
Well, first of all, let me talk about, to be an expert on anything, you must have made a mistake, and you learn from your mistake. Okay. So my first marriage, I made a lot of mistakes. I was more on my female side. She was more on her male side, and she wanted to be more like her. And I was already more like her. So it was like, we parted with love, but the attraction stopped. So I understand what happens when you don't have intimacy. The attraction goes away. It was shocking to me after a couple of years, this hot woman's body. I'm a young, immature guy. It's just like you just see a naked, really hot, naked woman's body. You just get turned on. And I'm going, God, I get to have this every night. This is amazing. And then after a couple of years, it was nothing. It was another woman that I didn't know. That would be a hot body, but she had the best body as far as my standard of body goes. Didn't do anything for me. Nothing does that. I'm just like 30 years old and nothing's happening with her. Could get it up in a second with some other woman. So what's that about? Well, we didn't have the intimacy where the knowledge of how women can become more vulnerable. See, man cannot stay turned on to a woman unless there's a hole to put it in. And that's what vulnerability is. She's got to be able to open up, but it's reciprocal. You've got to be erect so she can open up. So you've got to have there's a metaphor for you have to be anchored in yourself and focused on her to provide her what she needs, not your neediness when she criticizes you or when she's not happy. Because women are like waves. These are all these things in my books, both Men Are From Mars and Mars, Beyond Mars and Venus, the two key ones, is that when women go up, they're going to go down. They're going to go up. They're going to go down. They're like the weather. It changes. But men think, well, if she loves me, she's going to be happy all the time. No. But if you don't get how to help her at that time, she'll be unhappy all the time. That's what you can expect. And she'll disconnect from you and she won't get wet in her vagina. She won't be turned on to you. She won't want to initiate sex as much as you do. See, that's balance. If you want to be integrated, you want sex just like a guy and you want to be intimate just like a woman. That's having it both. What an amazing gift men can have, women can have when they understand how to integrate these two things together. I forgot your question.
I guess, so what I'm curious about is like how, so that was awesome anyway, but how does somebody, firstly identify if someone's truly their soulmate, and when does someone know, like what has to happen in order for someone to know, like, hey, this actually,
you can't know until you're 28 at least. I don't know how old you are. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Yeah, this is when you can start knowing.
Yeah. So
you go through the 4 stages. You're too immature. Your brain doesn't even develop. Prefrontal cortex doesn't even fully develop until you're 28. So these are rough numbers. You may think you're with your soulmate, but wait till you're 28 or 29. Then you're more in touch with really who you are and your potential to be a mate. Okay, so what happens? I write about this in the book. One of those books that you see behind me is called Mars, Venus on a Date. It's a really good date for single people who are dating. Now, what it does is it talks about 5 stages. Your first stage is attraction. Everything feels good. Your hormones are bursting. But then after that, familiarity sets in and you've experienced some intimacy. As a man and a woman, both of you, you'll experience uncertainty. Now that's a stage. Uncertainty is a stage. Once you get through the stage of uncertainty, then you'll feel like you want to make a commitment and be monogamous. I mean, you don't want to be with anybody else. You want to be with them. Give this relationship a chance. You still can't know they're your soulmate. You might think they are, but either you're just not ready to fully know. My wife of 34 years, Bonnie, she said the first time she saw me, she thought I was her soulmate. But we didn't get married. I ended up marrying the other woman because I didn't have relationship skills. Divorced the other woman and then healed my heart. I needed some time to heal after this. I was devastated. My wife fell in love with another man and I couldn't teach my business because my business was relationships. I couldn't be teaching relationships if I didn't have a successful relationship. So then I developed a course called Healing the Heart to heal my heart and teach everyone else how I was doing it. And so then after 9 months of healing, heard Bonnie's voice and said, yeah, she's the one. And went back and convinced her I'm the one. And we got married for 34 years. I'm her soulmate. We're soulmates. So having said that, she knew it right away. But reason we broke up is she wanted a husband who wanted children. I said, I'm not against children, just not into children. But the reason I ended up divorcing with Barbara is I suddenly was making money, feeling good about myself. I wanted children and she didn't want to have children. So that became she realized there's going to be an end to this relationship. And I think that's when she started running away. But I learned so many things from our mistakes. We certainly weren't free of mistakes at that time. So I've learned from my mistakes, and my relationship with Bonnie was not smooth sailing all the time. Okay. There were times when I thought I want to get a divorce. This is terrible. And I thought, well, we have children. I'm responsible as children. So I'm going to stay, but I'm going to work hard to make it work. And I did. We were out of love. I went back in love. And last 10, 15 years, fantastic in love. But we had these bumps because I wasn't an expert then. But what I am is a enlightened type person who has self-reflection. 9 years as a monk, I can meditate for 18 hours. Most days I meditate 4 or 5 hours just because it's something my soul likes to do. Like some people like to run, some people, that's my hobby. I go to altered states of ecstasy and meditation. That's not something you can do without 50 years of training. I'm one of these guys that can sit and stop breathing for hours and be in a meditative, blissful state, not think. That's possible, but it's 50 years of training. I also think, learning how to integrate is a lifetime process of your masculine and feminine sides, but you can certainly make a lot of progress learning from somebody who's done it, because I could have done it much faster had I known what I know today. So you can learn from my lessons or the points I make, and anything I say that's offensive to anybody, they should realize that's something they really should listen to. Because, we think you protest too much. It's the old Shakespeare thing. Clearly, when somebody points out something you don't want to look at within yourself, you get upset about it. That's why I freely talk now. I mean, I don't need anybody's approval or whatever. I've proven it. I've sold more relationship books than anybody in history. So, I got a backup there. And if you don't like my backup, you got to go, well, at least maybe you know something about that I need to look at, instead of looking at the opposite sex as the problem or looking at yourself as the problem. Anyway, back to your question. How do you know? So you don't know. You may think you know, but you don't know. And sometimes you think it's the wrong person. It's a life lesson. But how you actually know is when you feel the attraction. That's stage one. Stage two is uncertainty. Kind of like you're buying a house. You're looking at a lot of houses. You find one. You go, oh, I want to buy this house. As soon as you think I want to buy it, then you're going to say, I need to think more seriously about this and hire the experts to look at what's wrong with the house. That's what you do now in America. You hire people to look at all the problems of the house instead of what's good about the house. Once you see the good is there, your brain will start going, what's the not good? So you go into, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Once you get through that stage, and you have to read the book to learn how to get through that stage, you get to the commitment stage. That's where you say, okay, I'm make a commitment. Then there's challenges there as well. You have to overcome those. The challenges there, I'll tell you the challenges. And uncertainty, the challenges, men will tend to pull away. Women will tend to ask questions. That's when they say, where's this relationship going? Where are we going with this? Let's talk about our relationship. No, let's not talk about the relationship.
The men are like, it's been 3 months. What do you mean relationship?
Yeah, exactly. Women are all like, because see, she's in uncertainty. And so she wants to get reassurance. He's in uncertainty and he doesn't have an answer, because she's looking for commitment. He's not ready. So that actually can turn him off. You say to a man in uncertainty, well, do you love me? Well, no. And then boom, it's over. Then you believe what you said and you don't give it a chance to get horny again, to get back in there. So I get a lot of obstacles come up in the uncertainty stage where relationships could have thrived. Same thing with Bonnie and I. We were in the uncertainty stage and we just didn't do the right things. We would have been together long before the other one. But thank goodness for my destiny, I needed that other relationship to know how bad relationships can be, because it's never been that bad with Bonnie, even when it was very difficult. And we overcame that. So rather than problems pushing us apart, problems were a way to get closer together. All right, having said that, uncertainty, you make a commitment. The problems with the commitment stage is men become lazy. They always become lazy. It's like once I worked hard today, I got what I want. Now we go on vacation. And when men go on vacation, women start working harder to get you to change. So they give more and give more and give more. And then they feel like he's just sitting back on the couch. Well, yeah, of course he's sitting back on the couch. If somebody paid me for sitting on the couch, I wouldn't get up. So it gets downhill. He gets lazy and she gets resentful that she's giving more. If you learn the skills I teach, that won't happen. The next stage is intimacy. Once you start feeling really intimate, and that's actually when you should have sex. This is crazy to have sex right away. Sex itself is intimate, and suddenly it will bring up all kinds of uncertainty and question, do I really want to commit, and laziness. Once a guy gets you, your negotiation power is over women. So there's a lot of things I point out there. So then the next thing is you get the intimacy. But if you want to be modern, you have sex right away, whatever, just know you're going to have a bigger uncertainty stage and how to deal with that. So I talk about that. So the next one is, once you get to intimacy, that means a woman is feeling safe. And when she feels safe, unresolved issues start coming up. So suddenly she starts saying things, being upset about things that she normally wouldn't. It's kind of like on a job interview or when you meet somebody new. Oh, I have a guest coming over to my house for dinner the other day. I cleaned up the house and I had the energy to do it. if one of my good buddies was coming over, I wouldn't bother, right? Can anybody relate to that? Say, hey, love guarantee is my friend. I don't have to prove anything. But a friend comes to my house for dinner, inviting some people I never don't know that well. Oh, I'll put on some nice clothes. Suddenly I'm motivated to comb my hair. Suddenly this is the human nature. So once you start feeling at ease in a relationship, men become lazy. And for women, this stuff comes up that they don't know how to deal with. And they start complaining. They start having emotional reactions, upsets. He doesn't know what to do with it. And if he's more on his female side, he'll do it. So that's what happens then. And so the relationship ends because they don't know how to manage the negativity that comes up when you get what you want. It's so interesting. When you get what you want, you feel happy, and then your stuff comes up that kept you from being that happy before that. This is what we have to do, is learn to deal with the negativity of who we are as human beings, embrace it, love it, and let it go. Okay, then after intimacy, the fourth stage, if you survive that, then one morning you wake up and you go, I know she's the one. Just as much as if I have some hot tea, it just burned my tongue. Okay, it's as clear as bell if you go through all the four stages. And then the fifth stage is then proposal and having a honeymoon, not a honeymoon, engagement. So many people skip the engagement. You really need the engagement. This is the wisdom of the past. You don't rush these things, because if you have an engagement, you'll have challenges. As soon as these challenges about your life, and you're planning for the wedding and all these things and telling people, these are all challenges that are easy to overcome. If you go right for the wedding and go right into marriage, now it's like, how are we going to spend the money? How many kids do we want? How do we put the furniture? How do you sleep at night? Everything is big challenges, and you don't have any experience even solving little challenges together. So you have this confidence that you can do that. Now, that's one process. You can also just go off and get married and get a divorce, and you have learned a lot of lessons there. I say to my wife, I say, you're lucky I went and married this other woman, because I learned not to be an asshole. So you have starter marriages if that's what you want. And I figure any marriage, in most cases, not all cases, but the sweetheart marriages, you get married at 20 or 21, or get married because you got pregnant. Usually those are starter marriages, and they don't last. So that's a reality. I don't recommend people to get married till they're 28, and for men about 35. That's my recommendation. Maybe, or at least he has to be 28 and above, and she could be a little younger, a few years younger. But the old formula, which is older man, younger woman, always easier.
Yeah. John, this has been absolutely incredible. Which one of your epic books was the last 5 things we just talked about? Which
That's
one
called
do you
Mars, Venus on a Date.
Mars, Venus on a Date.
On a date. And the reviews I get on that are so good. And one time I had a New York magazine. They did a review on that book, and the woman said, so I got 5 books on dating, all the most popular books on dating. Now, this is back in the 90s. And so I tried them all out, and none of them worked to find my soulmate. But John Gray's, I had the most fun, and I felt the most authentic, and I was happiest. Okay. All the others, you feel like you're just playing a game or whatever. I'm not into games. I give you understanding of the energies and the polarities and how to deal with it and how to understand it, and not to be confused all the time. Not, why did you say this? What did I do wrong? Oh, that all gets clarified. And just because a relationship fails doesn't mean you're a failure. It means you have some lessons to learn. But if you leave a relationship blaming the other person for the problems and not yourself equally, you're going to get the same problems. It's like, what, you teach a class on dream big, teach a seminar, and you say to the people in the audience, you say, so whose fault is it you're not more successful? Is it your mother, father? Not you. And if you keep blaming other people, you'll never learn how to change inside yourself. What are your mistakes? And the mistakes only come from lack of knowledge. We're all good people. We all deserve good, but we just don't have the knowledge, and we make a mess of it. So we have to wake up and learn from that. And thanks for asking about that book, Mars, Venus on a Date. And for other people who are listening, who've already been in relationships and you're heartbroken, I got one called Mars and Venus Starting Over. Oh. And if you're a more traditional type person, Men Are From Mars is the best book in the planet. And if you're more modern, where you're more gender fluid, you're a man more in touch with your emotions, you're a woman, you're more independent, then the book Beyond Mars and Venus is a good beginning. But then as you start making progress, then Men Are From Mars will be necessary as well.
So you think
Men Are From Mars works if a woman is more on her female side or at least anchored in her female side, and a man's anchored in his masculine. Then all those issues of the conventional traditional male and the traditional woman, those issues are all addressed in Men Are From Mars. But beyond Mars and Venus, I'm dealing with the issues of women being too far on their male side and men being too far on their female side, or just simply both being on their male side, and he doesn't know how to get her back to her female side. We don't have to change men. We have to educate men on how to help women find their female side. That's it. That's the solution. And women just have to ask for the help and know what help to ask for. And men have to know how to do those things.
Cool. Well, what I'm going to do, because I love that. I haven't even read it, so I'm going to order that book for myself. But what I'm going to do for all the listeners, so here's something for you guys. So I'm going to buy 3 of your books, John, and I'm going to give it out to 3 of the random listeners. Okay. So if you want to win a copy of the new one, the Beyond Venus and Mars, which is going to be incredible, share this episode to your Instagram story, tag myself and John Gray. If you just do @JohnGray, it does come up because I've done it before. He's handled something else.
It's John@marsvenus.com. Oh, that's my email. We don't want to do that.
The Instagram.
My website is marsvenus.com. Marsvenus.com.
Yeah. But if you
and hey, there's a free class there. There's a free class. People go on there and they get first primer, rave reviews on how to get everything you want in a relationship eventually.
Yeah. I love it. Well, guys, so John's got a heap of free stuff, so we'll jump on his website. I'll put all the links below. But if you want to, so what I'm going to pick out 3 random winners. So when this episode comes out, make sure you subscribe, leave a review to this episode if you haven't already. Tag John and I both in the share to your Instagram story, and I'm going to pick out 3 winners that week, and I'm going to send you guys a copy of John's new book.
All
John,
right.
This has been amazing. This has been it's probably the longest episode we've done. I've got one final question. I'm going to drop all of your links, your websites and everything so people can go and find you in the description. But I've got one final question for you to wrap this up. Are you ready? Yeah. If you were to go back to your 18-year-old self and give him 30 seconds of advice, what would it be?
Stop masturbating.